business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money move.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast, the show created to provide you with the practical and strategic advice to help you level up in fitness, business, your career, your relationships, and your life. My name is Joseph Medsell. I am your host. I'm joined by co-host Brandon in another installment of Your For. Brandon, what's going on, my man?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm fucking on one today,
You're
man.
back.
I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back.
First week back, how you feeling?
Yeah, good, man. Good. It's nice to, after such a long contest prep, ended up being 20 weeks. I did the calculation. I didn't realize it was 20 weeks from when I started to the New York Pro, but it was 20 weeks. And it's just nice to like have energy.
Yeah.
To be
I
honest. But physical energy and like mental energy as well, and not like just be jumping from, stimulant source to.
Yeah, you're drinking water right now.
I know, right? There's nothing in here but pure H2O. So I'm fired the fuck up, man. I'm ready for this episode of Your For. We got 4 questions, a whole range of topics. You guys will hear them in a second, but we got work-related questions. We got mental health-related questions. We got all sorts of shit coming your way. Before we dive into the 4 questions in this episode of Your For, Brandon, we have to, it's one of those things, man, where it would be a disservice not to let you guys know about this once a year sale that we have. You guys know we do at TMJ Apparel once a year. We have, sometimes it's an end of financial year sale. Sometimes it's an end of season sale. We kind of market it differently every year. This year, we're calling it a last chance, last item apparel clearance sale. It's on right now and there's up to 90% off discontinued TMJ Apparel. And we have over 60 styles to choose from: tees, shorts, bras, tights, hats, workout accessories, bags. There is a shit ton on offer. And it's called the last chance, last item because a lot of these are like there's 2 or 3 of them left, which is why they're 90% off. And by the time you guys hear this, there might not be too many left. So, but that's the way it flows. But if you guys are keen, MassiveJoes.com and go and check out the last chance, last item apparel clearance sale. It is strictly while stocks last, and we'll run it until we don't have any left. So there's some really good bargains up to grabs. Make sure you guys check it out and get yourself some fresh TMJ apparel at hugely discounted prices.
Some of my favorite items in there, man.
I know, man.
It's crazy. Some guy came in before, bought a Dream Team tee.
Yeah.
Used a couple of his loyalty points and he got it for $9. I was like,
how does that even work? Hey, that's what you get for being loyal to the brand, though, man. Like
100%.
There's a whole bunch of perks up for grabs, but check it out, guys. There are some really cool bargains up for grabs, and like Brandon said, some of these because we turn over so many new pieces in TMJ Apparel. When we discontinue items, people are like, oh, that was like my favorite tee or my favorite jumper or this and that. We're like, yeah, but we like to do 1-off runs and 2-off runs and 3-off runs, and once they're gone, they're gone. So there are some really cool, like you said, the Dream Team, the NHTFS tees and long sleeves. Those are some of my favorites as well. They're up for grabs, like 90% off. It's wild. Make the most of it, guys. Your For. You ready?
yeah, I'm ready, man. So
Wow.
I'm just looking at the questions again and I'm ready to read out the first one.
Let's go.
Ready to go?
Let's go.
All right, question
Like
1.
I said, I'm fucking pumped the fuck up. Let's go.
I feel like I have so much more to give, but I don't get the opportunity at work. Advice.
You don't get opportunities. You don't sit back and wait for somebody to deliver an opportunity to you on a silver fucking platter, right? You go out and make opportunities. You go out and seek opportunities. You go out and find opportunities. I think the problem with this mindset right here is that I feel like I have so much more to give, but I don't get, like, what the fuck are you waiting for? Like, literally, are you waiting for your boss or the person who reports to you to like knock on the door and say, hey, Brandon, I see you've got so much more to give. Here's this opportunity that you've been patiently waiting for and not saying anything. Like, come on, man. Like, for real. You don't get given opportunities. You make opportunities. You go out and you fucking create opportunities. I think there's a couple of pieces of real practical strategic advice that I can offer here. And I'm going to use you as an example, if I may, because you've come up through the business. You started, for the listeners and the viewers who don't know your background story, you started as a supplement specialist, like a casual supplement specialist in our retail stores. You moved into a manager's position. You moved from a manager's position into a business development position. And now you're right on the verge of moving up to the next position as well. And you've done this in 18 months?
Yeah. Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years,
Yeah.
right? And the reason why you were able to seek out and really grab opportunities with both hands was because you were doing your job so well that you couldn't be ignored. Like ultimately, when you started as a casual supplement specialist, whose attention did you grab? You grabbed Leah's attention. And she's like, fuck, this guy's good. We need to elevate him. Right. So then the next opportunity was retail store managers. And then you caught my attention. And I'm like, fuck, Brandon is crushing it. We need to move him up. So real practical and strategic advice is how you go out and seek these opportunities, how you go out and grab these opportunities, is you do what you're currently doing so fucking well that you can't be ignored. That the people, the gatekeepers, whatever the fuck you want to call them, whose attention you need to get to say, I'm ready for the next opportunity, they can't ignore you. You will get their attention if you dominate at what you're currently doing. I think sometimes people are like, I've got so much more to give and, I'm waiting for this next opportunity, but you're fucking mediocre at your current position. So what are you saying you got more to give? You can't even do the fucking basics well. You can't even do the simple but not easy things well. So what makes you think that someone's going to come knocking and give you the next opportunity? It's just not going to fucking happen. So I think that's the first thing, is be undeniable. Be so damn good at what you're currently doing that you get the attention of the people who you can ask for and demand the next opportunity. And I think that's the second piece, right? Is when you're at that point, don't sit back and wait for opportunities to come knocking. Go out and ask for them, right? Put your hand up. We've had just to pull out another employee, and this is why I love being able to use real life examples in the MJ Fitness business. We've had another employee who's just joined us in the affiliate team side of the business, right? And she was doing really well. She caught the attention of who she needed to catch, and then she asked for the opportunity. Right? Don't sit back and wait for the opportunities. If you're crushing your job and you're being undeniable and you know it, figure out who you need to ask for the next opportunity and have the courage to ask them. Put your hand up. Say, I'm ready. Look at how well I'm doing what I'm currently doing. I'm ready for the next thing. Give it to me. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I agree fully. That's exactly what I had. You've hit the nail on the head there. The question is, I feel like I have so much more to give. Then give more. There's always areas you could be doing more. You can always be doing extra. You can always ask for more responsibilities. Ask what extra things you can do. Be the absolute best at whatever you're doing, man. If you're a waitress, be the fucking best waitress at your workplace. Yep. If you're at McDonald's, man, assemble the best burgers. It's as easy as that. You will get noticed. You said you have so much more to give.
Prove it.
Yeah, it's not, I'm not getting opportunities. I'm giving so much and I'm not getting opportunities because like you said, if you are, then schedule a meeting, talk to your boss, talk to your manager, ask for those extra responsibilities and articulate the skills that you have and really just show them. But you just need to give everything, man.
Do it through your actions. That's going to be super important, right? Because if you get the attention of somebody and you ask for the opportunity, but you're not showing through your actions that you're dominating your current position, you're not showing through your actions that you're ready to take on the next opportunity, it's not going to happen for you. Because I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, well, Brandon, let's imagine that you're back in retail stores, right? I'm going to say, Brandon, you're dropping the ball here, you're dropping the ball there. These things are very easy. They're very easy and you're not doing them. So what makes you think that you're ready for the next opportunity? What gives you the audacity to walk in here and ask me for the next opportunity when you can't even do what you're currently supposed to be doing to a high level. So show through your actions. And then once you're undeniable, have the courage to ask for the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
Next question.
How did you get over your first marriage ending, struggling with something similar?
Yeah, this is a great question. And a couple of pieces of obviously this is firsthand advice. The way the question's asked kind of implies that. First and foremost, you don't get over highly traumatic events in your life, and it applies to all sorts of trauma, right? It could be, like in this example, going through a divorce or the ending of a marriage or the end of any long-term relationship. It could be the death of a close friend or a close family member or a loved one. It could be really any life-changing experience that carries with it trauma, that therefore carries with it a grieving process. It's not something that you ever, quote unquote, get over. Right? And you can kind of push it and go, you know what? Got through that. It's done. I never need to think about it again. I never need to deal with that again. You know, any traumatic experience becomes something that's weaved into the fabric of who you are as a person. And it's always with you. So I think the mindset of, you know, it's something, any traumatic experience is something that I can get over is just an unrealistic expectation. It's going to be something that you work on. It's going to be something that's with you for the rest of your life. And it's going to be something that you're going to have to continue to work on. And if you're willing to do the work, can become a very valuable part of that fabric of who you become as a person. One of the really most valuable books that I've read, I actually read it earlier this year, and it was recommended by a friend of mine. You know who this friend is. We were just talking about him, and he had this person on his podcast. On Instagram, she's known as the Holistic Psychologist. Her name is Dr. Nicole LaPera, and she wrote a book called How to Do the Work. And this book is very much about dealing with trauma. And in particular, childhood trauma, but even adult trauma as well. And she goes through really practical and strategic steps of how to work through trauma. Because a couple of things that a lot of people do, the first thing they do is they don't deal with it at all. And then it kind of fosters and brews. And then at some point in their life, they're like, oh, fuck, this is like, I really need to do the work here. And then the other thing that people do is they kind of rush through the process and think that they can, quote unquote, get over it. And then it comes back to haunt them later on in life. So this book, How to Do the Work, Dr. Nicole LaPera, is a really good resource on how to work through any sort of trauma. And I really recommend that if you're dealing with something similar, that's a book that you go and have a read of. I think that you get some really good value out of it. A couple of other things that I want to add in here is when I was working through the really tricky parts of the ending of the marriage and then everything that came out of that, the actual formal divorce, the financial settlement and everything that involved, one of the things that I always anchored back into was reminding myself that things would get better and that the best days of my life hadn't happened yet. And I just needed to do the work. I just needed to get through, even if it's a day at a time, even if it's 3 hours at a time, even if it's an hour at a time, as difficult as any particular period of working through that really traumatic period of my life was, I always reminded myself, it will get better. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it will get better. And the best days of my life haven't happened yet.
Awesome. I don't have yeah, no, it's a really good insight, man. I know the holistic psychologist, is it Nicola? Nicola?
Nicole
LaPera. Yeah, she's someone I've wanted to dive. Well, I was following her stuff. Like I follow her on Instagram. I followed a lot of her work.
Her free content on Instagram is amazing.
100%. Like I haven't even read her books, but I've got a lot from her. Yeah. But yeah, what you said there, man, just having that in the forefront of your mind, the best days of my life haven't happened yet, is big.
It's huge. You know, you know what? I'm gonna diverge for a second, because this is just something that that kind of hit me, that I was like, I need to talk about this, because this is a really good opportunity to bring this up. And this is the concept of learned helplessness. I was listening to a podcast this morning. It's a podcast. Tony Robbins was a guest on Tom Bilyeu's podcast, Impact Theory. And Tony was talking about this concept of learned helplessness and how it really has become quite an issue on the back of the pandemic, and really kind of everything that's happened since the pandemic. And a lot to blame is this constant mass media messaging of how bad shit is. You know, whether it's the actual virus, which we went through for fucking 2 years, about, you know, this virus is going to kill you and you need to get vaccinated and you should wear your fucking masks inside your car when you're the only person in the car with the windows wound up and all that sort of bullshit, right? Now into the economic fallout of everything that was done by governments around the world to kind of make sure that the economies made it through the economic challenges of the pandemic. And now it's like, you know, cost of living pressures and inflation pressures and fucking war in the Ukraine and like this and that and whatever. And Tony was saying that, you know, this learned helplessness is going to be one of the biggest issues to come out of COVID, to come out of COVID-19, to come out of the pandemic, because a lot of people are finding themselves in this mindset of things are not going to get better. Things are either going to stay the same or they're going to get worse. And from a psychological perspective, that's a big fucking problem, because it's ultimately the definition of helplessness. It's ultimately the definition of, why do I bother when things are not going to get better? Why do I continue to focus on taking the next step? Why do I continue on trying to develop grit and resilience and perseverance? And so many of the real skills that we talk about in this podcast, a lot of people are finding themselves in a position where they're like, fuck it, why would I bother when things are not going to get better? And it's reinforced by this constant bullshit, negative crap that's coming out of the media, where it's always dire and it's always something shit. And it's always be careful of this and beware of that and be afraid of this, and all of this just negative fucking information coming through. Let me tell you something. I was, obviously I've come back from competing in Pittsburgh and New York, and the last part of that trip, my wife Amy and I spent ended up being 5 days in Hawaii because our flight got cancelled. That's a different podcast story for another podcast. But our time in Hawaii, we really made a conscious effort to switch off, right? So we didn't consume any literally no mass media. Like the only thing I consumed was fucking Instagram, just because I was posting stories and shit. But like no mass media, no news, nothing. And then we've come back this week and kind of get back into routines and whatnot. And Amy and I were talking this morning, before I even listened to this podcast with Tony and Tom, we were talking this morning. And she's gone back into the routine of reading the news every morning. She's reading the news and it's literally like this negative thing. Be worried about this. Be afraid of this. Things have never been this bad. This is coming. You should batten down the hatches. And it was literally like this fucking onslaught of all of this negative shit. And then I've listened to this podcast with Tony and Tom, and I'm like, fucking Tony's right. Like the amount of bombardment of negative messaging and negativity is really reinforcing this learned helplessness for a lot of people. And it's a really big fucking problem. So a couple of pieces of advice here that I really want to offer. The first one is, the best days of your life haven't happened yet. Always remember that. Look at history. Things always get better. You have tough periods right? You have stormy periods, you have shit periods. This too shall pass. Nothing is forever. Storms always pass. Things always get better. And then they might get shit again. But ultimately, they always get better. The best days of your life haven't happened yet. No matter what you hear, what you consume, what sort of shit is pumped down your fucking throat, always anchor back into the best days of my life haven't happened yet. And I have those best days to look forward to, because that is really going to offset any sort of learned helplessness that you're being taught by consuming mass media that's almost unavoidable. The second thing is, try not to consume mass media. Try not to get caught up in this narrative of negativity. Try not to get caught up in the negative messaging that is almost inescapable. Do your best to kind of censor what you're consuming. Don't take it at face value. And then anchor back into the best days of my life haven't even happened yet.
That's one of my favorite things you've ever said on this show, I think, because it's been life-changing for me not consuming so much, especially mass media. Like, you can't escape it sometimes when you look on Instagram, people resharing stuff, or people are talking about it in the office, or you go into the gyms and you see the TVs there. That's where I see it really, but it's had a huge effect on my mental health. Like, I'll come into the kitchen in the morning and my mum would always watch the news in the morning and things like that. It's just like, as soon as you wake up, you're just getting that negativity just in that reactive mode. It's a big one. So yeah, go back and re-listen to that because it's good shit.
Yeah, well, it puts you in a mode of reactivity, and then it fires up your reticular activating system, where like you hear some negative shit first thing in the morning, and then the rest of the day, your mind goes searching for negative shit that reinforces that negative shit that you heard. And it's like, oh, that thing that was talking about the cost of living pressures and interest rates going up. Oh, there's something that supports it. And you go to the supermarket and you see the price of fucking raspberries, and you're like, oh my shit. Raspberries have never been that expensive. Maybe what I heard on the news was right. Maybe the world is coming to a fucking end because I can't buy raspberries for $5 a punter anymore. You know, it's just, but it's funny, but it's all these little things that you really kind of attach onto. And this is what's causing a lot of this learned helplessness for people. It's just not fucking true. It's just not true. Next question.
Do you ever worry you work too much?
Yeah. Do you?
I mean, I do, but I think it's a bit different for me. Like,
why? What makes you say that?
I'm an employee, whereas you own this business.
True.
So it'd be very hard for you to even switch off, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas like I can, but it's just like if I can like push something to us like to the side. Whereas I just think it's a bit of a different situation. Like, I'm not saying that I don't worry I work too much, because I definitely can, and I'm pretty conscious about it. But if you own your baby, own your own baby, man, like your business, you'd be almost 24/7.
It's always there.
Yeah.
It's always there. It is something I worry about, and one of my favorite quotes from Ray Dalio, who I've spoken about in this podcast many times. If you guys don't know who Ray is, just Google Ray Dalio. But one of his principles is, if you're not worried, you need to worry. If you are worried, you don't need to worry. And what that principle really he's trying to articulate there is, if you're worried about something, you have the awareness of it. And if you have the awareness of it, you're naturally going to take steps to make a change, right? So if you asked me this question, I was like, nah, I'm not worried that I work too much. I should be fucking worried, right? But the fact that you've asked me this question, and I'm like, no, I do worry about it, which means I'm aware of it, which means that I actively put things in place to make sure that this is not going to become a problem, because it has been a problem in my past where all I did was fucking work. Not all I did, but every spare moment I had was work. And then, I'm so focused on working that different parts of my life start to fall apart. So I am worried about it. But I do actively take steps and put things in place to make sure that I'm managing it as best I can. And I think this is where it becomes a little bit tricky, because the steps I put in place is like I block out periods of time where like I won't open my laptop, for example. But then my phone's there. You know what I'm saying? Right? And the phone is the fucking laptop. And then I have periods of time where I'm like, no, I'm training in the gym. I'm going to put my phone down. But then my mind, can't turn your mind off, right? So my mind is thinking about affiliate programs or Project Eclipse or TMJ Apparel or what new brands that we're working. Like it fucking never stops. And there's nothing I can do about it. Literally never stops. And I guess, you know, so the two things that I put in play, just to give the practical and strategic advice. So I do have like specific periods of time that I do block out where I'm like, I'm not going to actively work, right? So I'm not going to sit down on my phone and do work, or I'm not going to sit down and open my laptop and do work. That is not going to happen. So I do have periods of time like that. First thing in the morning, last thing at night. There's blocks of periods of time on the weekend as well where I'm like, this is non-active work time. And I'm very disciplined with that. I'm very strict with that. And to be honest, my wife, Amy, has really helped me out with that a lot. She's like, you can't every spare second you have be working. You need some harmony here. And she's right. And it's been one of the best things that I've done. So that deals with the active work. When it comes to my thoughts and the fact that my brain literally will not fucking switch off. Like I think I have dreams about work. So even when I'm fucking sleeping, sometimes my brain is thinking about, you know, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? In that regard, something that's helped me out a lot is my mindfulness practices. So meditation, mindfulness meditation, being able to separate my thoughts and feelings, being able to stand back from my thoughts and just look at them from a distance and appreciate them from what they are. And I'm very quickly able to kind of bring myself back into the present and go, okay, I'm thinking about work. I don't need to go down the garden path there, right? I don't need to get caught up in that thought. I can go, okay, that's a work thought. Let it go, come back into the present. So I guess that kind of pursuit of presence is a constant work in progress for me. But I have found that that's helped me out a lot when it comes to the fact that my mind will almost always kind of gravitate towards something work-related when it's not actively doing something else.
Yeah, I think the key here is you saying, like, you're aware of it, and it's when it becomes a problem. That's the big one.
Well, I think the issue with that, man, is that if you wait for it to become a problem, it's too late.
Because I don't think it's not. Everyone, it's normal to worry about if you're working too much or to worry about work at all. Obviously, I said it's a bit different for me as I'm an employee, and like I'm conscious of it, and there's a lot of things I take home with me.
But you do work a lot.
I
man.
do, yeah.
Like I see what you put in. You work a lot more than the average person.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, like there's stuff like I know that I'm going to be doing bits and pieces at least here and there on the weekends, but I set boundaries. And when it starts to, you need to prioritize what's important to you as well. So if you're like your social life is very important to you, or your health and fitness and those things like start to slide at all, and it's because you feel like you're working too much, then that's when you need to address it. And that's when you need to set those boundaries, I think. That's when I've set those boundaries. If I feel like I'm like, I'll set a time as well. I'll allocate times, and then like if I've got stuff to do on the weekend, like work to do on the weekend, I'll smash it out in that scheduled time and not really outside that time, because there has been times where I'll just let it trickle out. Okay, I'll do a bit of this in the morning, do a bit of this in the afternoon, do a bit of this at night, and then it's sort of like, okay, I've sort of just been like doing it throughout the day and I haven't really switched off at all. Next thing you know, it's Monday and it's just like, fuck, I didn't really get any time to reset. But just setting those boundaries, especially if you feel like it is starting to consume you a lot and those areas of your life that are important to you are sort of slipping, that's when I think it's a bit of a concern. That's when you need to address it. But yeah.
I think from an employee perspective as well, it's something that I always encourage my employees at least to do, is like, I don't want you guys working all the time, right? Because it's not about the amount of hours you put in. It's about how productive you are.
Efficiency, yeah.
Right? And there's an inverse relationship between how many hours you put in and how productive you are, right? Well, maybe not an inverse relationship, but there's definitely a law of diminishing returns. So I want you to put in the least amount of work and be the most productive. And when you reach that tipping point, switch off. Go do some other shit. Recharge. Go spend time with your loved ones. Go to the gym and work out. Go pursue a hobby that you enjoy doing, because I know that recharging time is super important when it comes to, all right, now you're back at work and you're being as productive as you possibly can, right? So it's super important. It's something that I encourage all you guys to do. Is like, ultimately you're not the owner of the business, and I don't expect you to be on 24/7, 365. That's not part of the deal. So, good insight. Last question.
All right, last question. Do you ever feel anxious, suffer from anxiety? If so, how do you manage it?
Fucking hell. What a question to close out. Short answer is yes. Long answer is yes, frequently. Super long answer is I have had periods of chronic anxiety, like the sort of anxiety that wakes you up in the middle of the night in like a hot sweat and your heart beating out of your chest, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is very close to a panic attack. And then I've had actual anxiety attacks. So I've had 3 in my life. All of them were around the ending of my first marriage, in very close proximity to each other. And I would not wish them on my worst enemy. If you've had an anxiety attack before, you know, it literally feels like you're dying, and it's not fun at all. So, I feel anxious frequently, and I wouldn't say that I suffer from anxiety. I don't think that clinically I'd probably be diagnosed as someone who has anxiety, but it is definitely something that I have to manage. I think a lot of us do. You know, whether we're aware of it or not. I mean, it's one of the biggest mental health challenges that a lot of people have to deal with. So, how do I manage it? There's a couple of things that I do. So, the first thing, when I am going through a period of elevated anxiety, the first thing I do is breath work. And something that works really well for me is box breathing. For those of you who are not aware of what box breathing is, I should say, it's breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And I'll do that for a couple of minutes. And for me, that just allows me to physically be where I'm at, which allows me to separate my thoughts and emotions, which is one of the best ways you can manage anxiety. Because a lot of anxiety is you get so caught up in thoughts, your body starts responding as if the thoughts are true, and then you kind of lose complete control and you get caught in that loop, and it's very difficult to get out of. So that's something that I found works very well for me is breath work and box breathing in particular. The other 2 things are kind of omnipresent. The first one is meditation, mindfulness meditation, which is something that I do at least 5 times a week. And the other one is journaling, which is something that I do every day. And I think that those 2 things in particular, mindfulness meditation, as I mentioned earlier, is just a practice that has allowed me to develop the skill of getting some distance from my thoughts so that I'm able to think something. I don't have to become the thought. I don't even have to acknowledge that the thought is true, and I can create distance from the thought and just see it as a thought. Journaling is something that really allows me to get my thoughts out of my mind onto paper or into my phone. I usually journal electronically, and because they're out of my mind, I am once again able to create that distance and create that space, so I don't have to become one with the thought. I'm able to create, effectively become an observer of the thought rather than become the thought itself. One of the best pieces of advice that I can give when it comes to managing anxiety is to stay ahead of it. If you're only incorporating breath work and meditation and journaling when you're in a period of high anxiety, it's too late. It's going to be really difficult. You need to be doing this stuff consistently. You need to exert discipline with your mindfulness techniques, with your breathwork techniques, with your journaling techniques, especially when you're going through periods where there's no anxiety, because that's where you develop the skill. That's where you develop the ability when you're going through a period of anxiety to go, no, all good, I got this. Breath work, meditate, journal. I know exactly what I need to do. I'm in control of this situation and I can get through this. If you're not doing that, you're not developing the skill, right? So the next time you're going through a period of anxiety, it's much more difficult to get out of it. It can last hours, if not days, if not weeks. So that's a really important piece of advice. Have the discipline to anchor back into your mindfulness practices consistently, day in, day out.
I couldn't agree more with that at all. Like at the moment, there's one of my practices that I've sort of fallen off with, and I can feel it pulling already. I get up in the morning and I can feel those thoughts, and it's crazy how like you hear people say meditate, you hear you preach breath work and journaling and writing your thoughts down, but there's a reason why you're doing it. Like I do suffer anxiety. Comes and goes in waves for me. So it's not, I'm not anxious every day, but it's usually like there's a part of my, like an area in my life that something happens and then I sort of just spiral. And then it's funny because you're talking about these different tools. This is actually in my notes. I'm just going to show you quickly. So do you remember me like last month before the podcast, I sort of said, hey Joe, like I don't know if I can do the podcast this month, this week, because I'm going through a bit of stuff, but you'll see now. So this is actually, what's this titled? Tools for Anxiety. And this was edited on the 24th of April.
What you got there?
So these are pretty much just practices. These are things that I anchor back into. There's also people that I follow and I listen to that bring me a lot of comfort as well. But my main ones there as well are your meditation, your breath work, like your Wim Hof breathing has been huge for me. That's just that deep diaphragm breathing. And then writing and journaling as well. Journaling on your thoughts just brings it, like you said, it brings it to a conscious level. And it can help separate you from your anxiety. So you got to look at it as two separate things. Like you're not your thoughts, you're not your anxiety. Those thoughts are the devil, man. Like honestly,
it's interesting what you've got here, man. Because so many, I'm just going to read through them. Right, okay. Wim Hof, which is breath work, yep. Meditation, which we've spoken about. Joe Dispenza, which is quantum physics. Yeah,
I actually am using his meditation at the moment. So
awesome.
Yeah, so
yeah. Fasting, exercise, journaling, yoga, cold water exposure, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a form of separating yourself from your thoughts, reduction in social media and technology, grounding, sun, water, sleep. Almost all of those are techniques to bring yourself into the physical present.
The present, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's literally all techniques to go, thoughts are just thoughts. They're not physical. They're not present. It's my mind doing what my mind does to ultimately keep me alive. It's ultimately my body trying to make sure I survive. And I've perceived this threat, whether it's real or not, it doesn't matter. I perceive this threat. My mind is chasing after this threat. Now I feel anxious as fuck. So what am I going to do? I'm going to bring myself back into the present because the threat's not real. And so many of those techniques that, even the cold water therapy, put yourself under a cold shower.
Can't think of anything.
Nope.
But how fucking
all
cold
you think
are,
about
man.
is how fucking cold you are.
Yeah. That's why the Wim Hof is paired with, the breathing is paired with the cold water exposure because, nothing brings you into the present like it. But it was life-changing for me. Like the thing that was life-changing for me is, and it's hard, it takes work, man, but realizing that thoughts are thoughts. Like, and if you aren't doing these practices to really aim for, really these present practices, these mindful practices, it's really hard to even separate yourself from them. So I'd dive into them, man. I'd obsess over them. I'd let them control me, no matter how stupid they are. And just greeting those thoughts and identifying them as thoughts and just letting them pass by. That's what meditation and these mindfulness practices will do.
100%. The shit's life-changing, and I still get people, man, like all the time, especially on social media, I still get people, like meditation is bullshit. This is, all this stuff you talk about is fluff. And I'm like, have you tried it? I tried it. It didn't work. No. Did you commit to it? Did you meditate every single day for 2 months straight? Nah, I did it like 3 times. I didn't get anything out of it. Or, I tried it and my mind was too busy. Well, that's the whole fucking
That's the point, man. Like people think meditating is just going to shut your thoughts off. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
Like you see monks, man, they're still meditating every single day and they've been doing it for how many years? It's a practice. It's a skill you need to work on.
Yeah.
And if you find it hard sitting still, trying to switch your mind off, like firstly, you're not alone. Like so many people do that and that's why they give it up. And yeah, secondly, you can't switch your brain off. You just accept your thoughts and see them for what they are, which are thoughts.
And it's like anything, it's a skill. Managing anxiety, just to tie it back to the question, managing anxiety is a skill. It's not something that you just like click your fingers and ultimately you're the fucking ninja of dealing with anxiety. Like it's a constant work in progress. It's never finished. It's like fitness.
It is, yeah.
You don't reach a fitness goal and you go, I'm done. That's it. Never doing this again. I've reached it. I'm finished. No. It's a constant work in progress. You're constantly developing the skill. You're constantly getting better, and you constantly do get better. Hopefully I won't ever have an anxiety attack again because I've developed the skills to be able to create the distance to never get that deep into a thought that it actually takes over my physical body. That's the hope, at least.
It's funny how it all just keeps coming back to discipline.
Always.
Yeah.
We should call this the fucking discipline podcast at some point, whether it's mental health, whether it's your career, whether it's your business, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your fitness, it all comes back to discipline. And discipline is supposed to be difficult. That's the whole point, right? If it was easy, everyone would be fucking disciplined. We'd have a different name for it. Might call it, I don't know, easy, some shit. It wouldn't be called discipline, right? The days when you don't feel like doing it are the days that you have to do it. You must do it. Because that's ultimately how you develop new skills, man.
100%.
That's it. That's a wrap. Brandon, thank you, man. That was quite a journey. A lot of mental health going on in there, but that's my kind of podcast, man. I'm always happy to share those life experiences and the different pieces of practical and strategic advice to help you guys out. So thank you for choosing those questions. They were good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Guys, if you have a question that you'd like us to answer in the very next episode of Your Fault, the best place to send them is straight to Brandon on Instagram via DM at Brandon Verdi. Brandon, spell it out, man.
BrandonVerde.
That's where you want to send them. Brandon picks the 4 best questions, slides them together, and makes an episode that we take a deep dive into. Man, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Guys, you could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode. We hope you enjoyed listening. A couple of things to round out. Firstly, if you've yet to subscribe to the Fitness Times Business podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure you do that right now so you don't miss any future episodes. Secondly, if you guys took some value from this episode, the one thing we ask in return is that you share the show. And finally, if you've yet to leave us a 5-star rating, make sure you do that before the next episode.